Welcome to Live with Marcia and Colleen. We have hit $4,000 in the crowdfunder for Marcia's newest book, Flecks of Gold, Yukon Stories. And I am just grabbing the list of names of people who, the list that I used last time is still there, but I know we have more names to add, so I better go find those. Marcia, why don't you talk about what we're putting in this book? We have an official manuscript. We sent it to our friend Sheila, and we've had some conversations back and forth about what to put in, what to leave in, what to add, what to take out. So, Marcia, talk a little bit about that while I go looking for more names.
Okay. Well, it's been a little bit of a back and forth, as Colleen has said, to choose the different things that will be in the book. It's going to be a kind of a mixture of stories, some fiction stories, some articles and poetry, and just kind of a real mixture of all kinds of things. And almost all of the pieces have something to do with the Yukon. Not every single one will, and that was a little bit of a debate that went on, because I kind of wanted it to be just Yukon stories and Yukon devotionals and poems. But Sheila, our editor, kind of was pushing back a little bit on that, and she said there were a few pieces that she felt should be included. Some sort of for context and for a bit of background in certain things, and just because of their content, she really felt that they should be included in the book. So I think I had suggested pulling 6 pieces, and I think we pulled 3 that won't be in the book, but the others will be left in. So we've finally settled on what will be in it and what won't, and I'm really excited. And so now our next step, Sheila's doing some more editing, and then we will have a look at the order of the pieces and decide what order they should be in, what will be the first piece, what will be the last piece, and how things will fit all together. So that's going to be a fairly big job to do that.
So, Marcia, the things that are not about the Yukon, why are they in there?
Well, Sheila felt that, like I said, they were some were giving context to what I was saying in the other pieces, and she just felt that their themes or their the intent of the pieces really fit well in the book, as well as the Yukon pieces. So I think that was her reasoning for including them.
Yes, the themes of rock and water and nature in general. Those are a couple of themes. And what have we taken? Oh, go ahead. For instance,
sorry, I was just thinking. For instance, there was one story it doesn't take place in the Yukon, but it takes place on Baffin Island, and I was wanting to put that was one of the ones I designated to pull, but Sheila said she really liked the story. It's a story of a time when I was visiting Baffin Island, and I was about to go through cancer treatments. And so it was a little bit of context there. And she just felt that it really fit well with the rest of the book. And because it was northern, it is, in Baffin Island, yes. I agree that, we should leave that one in.
Yes. I'm just looking up, our last draw was July 7th. So I need to add all the names that came in since then. So that's good. July 7th. Let's see. Marcia, talk about, okay, we took a few stories out, and I think you'll publish some of them, if not all of them, on your Substack. So tell us about a couple. Oh, there was one, What a Cowboy Knows. Mm-hmm. Why did we take that one out? And why do we still love it?
Well, it's kind of a neat story and it fits well with this season in Alberta. because this is rodeo season. We just had a big rodeo here in High River. Lots of chuck wagon racing and other kinds of things going on that have to do with rodeos. And so it's a good timing to post that. So I'll be posting that probably within the next couple of days. And it's basically a story about how, these cowboys, when they ride the broncs and they come out and they have 8 seconds to stay on that animal. And, and we kind of, it's such a short time, and we're sort of watching these guys go out and do these things. And we don't see everything that's come before. All the, the broken bones sometimes, and the cracked ribs, and the headaches, and all the things, because they are athletes and they get beaten up sometimes when they're doing these rodeos and riding these amazing creatures the broncos and the bulls and all of these creatures that they climb on. So it's a story about resilience and about perseverance and about training. That they've had to practice and practice and practice, that it just doesn't happen overnight. They don't just go into a rodeo, get up on the back of a bull and be able to hang on for 8 seconds. They're trained how to do that, and they practice and practice and practice. And that means a lot of bruises and sometimes broken bones and all of these things. So that's kind of what that story's about.
Do you go to a rodeo every year, at least one?
No, actually, I haven't been to a rodeo for quite a while. We did go to the rodeo when we lived in Ponoka. The Ponoka Stampede is the second largest in Canada, next to the Calgary Stampede. So it's quite a big rodeo, and thousands of people come to it. You can't see the stadium almost for RVs, the Winnebagos and RVs that are thousands of people come in for that. So we have gone to that a few times. The very first time I went, I'd never been to a rodeo before, and some friends suggested that we take our kids, 3 little girls at that time. They said, take your kids to the chuck wagon races. That's really entertaining. So we did. We went and got up into the stands for that. And but just before the chuck wagon races started, there were some young boys, about maybe 11, 12 years old, who were practicing for the future competitions that they were going to be entering. And some of them were coming out on bulls and on broncos and, these animals. And one of these kids, he looked like maybe he was 10 or 11 years old. Maybe he was older than that, but he looked really young. Came out on this huge bull. And the bull came out of the chute, went up into the air. The boy went up into the air and landed on the ground in front of the bull, and the bull came down on top of him.
Oh no!
So I was like in shock, and I just looked at Spence and I said, I don't want my girls to see this, so we left. So that was kind of a negative experience at the very beginning of our time going to rodeo. But we did go another few times after that, and things like that do happen, but they're relatively rare considering all the competition that goes on in those rodeos.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we were just at a stampede, the 4th largest in Canada. So the first is Calgary, the second is Ponoka, the third I'm curious to know now, and then Strathmore is the 4th largest. And it was quite nice. We were right in the front row, and so we had ringside seats to the chuck wagon races, and I was amazed at how different the horses are. And do you tell any horse stories? I don't remember in this book.
I don't think I do. No, I don't think I do.
Well,
but yeah,
your horse stories in a minute. But the thing that amazed me at the Strathmore Stampede was, so the chuck wagon, they use thoroughbreds, and thoroughbreds that have retired from racing, and they just want to go. They were born to run, they were bred to run, and they just go, go, go. They can hardly stop them. And I figured out they only run them once every evening. So they've got 9 heats, and they've got 4 teams per heat, 6 horses per team. So that's like 216 horses every evening are running hard. And then between every 3rd heat, they drag the arena to to freshen it up. And they had 3 teams of draft horses, heavy horses. And they had Percherons and Belgians and Blue Roan, Belgian crosses, and just gorgeous, huge animals. They don't move fast, but they're steady and dutiful and strong, and such different temperaments from the thoroughbreds. And then the other events, like the barrel racing and the calf roping and stuff, those would be quarter horses. And those horses just want to work. Like, give me another job. Okay, I've done that. Now what? Now what? Now what? So, you think about all the different temperaments that people have, and the animal kingdom is the same, and horses have so much variety. So you had a horse. I just want to mention hi to Paul and Maureen and Robert who have joined us, and feel free to chat with us. I'm going to give you a link to Marcia's crowdfunder. We're here tonight because we raised $4,000 towards publishing Marcia's, what is this, 16th book?
14th.
Oh, this is only 14. Only 14. Well, you've got others in the works. And I want to show behind me, right beside the cat. I can't point to it. There you go. That's Marcia's memoir, Ponderings. You can't really see it from here, but that's a book that we published last year. And then this is a collection. Sheila said, Marcia, you need a cornerstone book, something that kind of pulls together a lot of your genres. And you have a lot of Yukon stories, but you don't have them all together in one place. So that's what we're doing. And we ran a crowdfunder, and our goal was $4,000, and we hit that this week. You can still pre-order the book because now we're finalizing the editing, and we're going to keep you in the know about that. So, Marcy, so we don't have any horse stories in this book. It's not too late to add one though, because you had a horse in the Yukon.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
yeah, we actually had 2 horses. My husband was in construction for a time, and he did a lot of drywalling and that kind of thing. And a friend of ours needed some drywalling done in his house. He lived on a farm way out in the bush, and he had quite a herd of horses out there. And so we did a bunch of work for him on his house. And then when the project was coming to a close, he kind of came to Spence and said, I don't really have any money. So he didn't have the money to pay us. So he said, but I've got a lot of horses. Do you guys want some horses? And I was like, yes. And my husband was really kind of reluctant because he hadn't ridden very much. But we went out and had a look at some of the horses, and Stuart pulled out a couple of horses that he thought might work for us. And we went for a bit of a ride. And one of the horses was a really big animal. I forget how many hands he was, but he was really tall and beautiful. He was an American paint, or Indian paint, some people call it. And that one, Stuart said, this one will be for Spence. And then he came and brought this little mare out. She was a quarter horse mare. And that horse had been a horse that he'd trained for his kids. So she was very docile, very laid back. If you dropped a rein, she'd just stop. She was just really a lovely little horse. And so I got up on her, and Spence got up on Cheyenne, the big paint. And we started out down this trail, and then Spence halted pretty quick, and he said, this is too much horse for me. And so he got down off of Cheyenne, and Stuart came over and boosted me up so I could get on him, because this horse was huge and I'm 5'1". So, but I got up on Cheyenne and we started off, and I just loved this animal immediately. He was just so responsive and lively. The minute you put your foot in the stirrup, he was gone. He just wanted to move, and he'd been trained as a jumper. So we headed down this trail, and there was a little bit of deadfall in some places and sticks and branches over the trail. And every time we came up to one of these, Cheyenne was, he wanted to jump. So he was a lot of fun to ride. And Spence every now and then would go with me on little mare that we had too, and she was nice to have because people came around and wanted to ride and hadn't ridden very much. Gypsy was the perfect horse to ride. So we really enjoyed having those horses. And Stuart had given us a bunch of tack as well, so we had the saddles and the bridles and everything we needed. And we were fortunate that a fellow moved in across the way from us. He was a few kilometers away from us, but he had quite a big herd of horses and was a dyed-in-the-wool horse person. He was a farrier, and he knew everything that needed to be known about a horse. So it was really great to have him there because he helped us with our horses' hooves and kind of gave us a lot of tips on how to care for the animals that we had.
That's great. I think
it was kind of like a dream come true for me to have them. I remember waking up in the morning, looking out the window and seeing them grazing in our field, and it was like I had to pinch myself. Is this real? I really have horses.
Yeah. Oh, that's so great. We had a horse named Snowball. She was a bit of an old nag, but we would ride her bareback, me and my siblings, and then we boarded somebody's Appaloosa stallion, and they made a baby, a black baby that we named Bandit. He had a star on his forehead, and he was just barely broken. My uncle broke him, but barely. And I think I rode him a couple of times, but he was not really reliable. Yeah, we had horses, but
yeah, there are a lot of them. My favorite horses right now are Gypsy Vanner horses.
Yes.
There's a lady near Red Deer who breeds them, and I've gone out there a few times just to visit, and I just love these animals. They're just like big puppies. You can go right up to them. They come up and snuggle your neck, and put their noses on your arms, and they're just lovely people horses. And they're kind of like a small workhorse. They're not very tall, but they're quite broad. They're heavy. And a lot of middle-aged women actually have them, and they have what they call a trap, a small little wagon behind them. And there's all kinds of competitions where you can go and watch them. And they're beautiful animals. They have really long flowing manes and big feathers on their legs. So they're really beautiful creatures, but their temperament is just wonderful.
You said there was one horse in particular that you felt a real bond with?
Yeah, I did. She was a little filly that had been born, and these horses generally have quite wide heads because they're kind of like a workhorse. They were bred to pull the gypsy wagons. So they're kind of husky looking horses, and most of them have fairly broad heads, but this little filly had just this slim, petite head, and she was just beautiful. I just fell in love with her right away, and she trotted right up to me, and she wasn't very old. She'd only been, I don't know, maybe 2 months, 3 months old, and the lady who breeds these horses, she has a really good trainer and handler there, and she makes sure that as soon as those foals are born, they have human contact. So they get used to people being around them right away. And this little filly would just, come right up to me and snuggle come up and kind of put her head here on my neck and snuggle. And she was just beautiful. And I said to the lady that was breeding them, I said, I have a fairly big backyard. She's small, I could put her in my backyard, couldn't I? Because I wanted to take her home so badly. But I knew I couldn't do that.
So which came first? You're working on a young adult fantasy book or series, and the first book is just about done. You're doing one more polish, and then you are going to start a brand new Substack publication, and you're going to release that book as a subscription, right? So which came first, meeting the Gypsy Vanner horses or the inspiration for Pebble?
Well, when I had the idea for Pebble, I think a little bit before I got to know the Gypsy Vanners. But as soon as I met them, I've used a lot of their um, peculiarities and their temperament to create the shavans. I call them the winged horses that I'm writing about. So they're very much like the gypsy banner horses.
Hmm. Except with wings.
With wings, yes.
Yeah. And in your book, I don't know how much you want to say, so you just tell me that people have to read it to find out. But in your book, the initial human contact is really important, right?
Yes.
Can you say anything about that now, or is that a secret?
Yeah, I could give a little bit away. I call it tethering. So it's a thing where the first person to make eye contact with that foal becomes their tethered one, and they are forever bound together after that. And it becomes a real issue in the book because the young girl who becomes tethered to this, what is going to be one of their best stallions, it's a forbidden thing because, number one, she's female, and she's also a slave, and she's not of noble birth, and she's also from a people that are the enemies of the people that she's now living with. So there's a lot of conflict there and a lot of resistance to her being tethered to this beautiful creature. So that's kind of what the story is about.
So I have a phrase in my head. I've never shared it with you before, but we like to bounce things. The problem of genres. And that's one of the problems we're trying to solve somewhat or address with Flecks of Gold, Yukon stories. So there are personal essays in there. There are devotional writings. There are poems, and there's some fiction.
And some fiction, yeah.
Okay. I don't think we've talked about this. If you're hearing it live, folks, we should probably identify what the genres are for each.
Yeah, I think particularly with the fiction, because I caught Sheila the last time we chatted. She said something about one of those fiction pieces, and I don't think she realizes it's fiction. So that's something that I think we should designate those pieces and let people know this is a fiction piece. This isn't true to life.
Especially because some of your stories and the way you write them are larger than life. Even the true ones. There's one that's not in the book, but you've told it several times, but I don't think the people watching probably have heard it. And I love hearing it again and again. The one about you getting kind of lost, not at sea, but on the lake. Was it Lake Superior?
Getting lost on Lake Superior?
Not lost, but you almost got hit by a ship.
That's when I was quite young. My brother was always building rafts. We lived right on Lake Huron, and the big freighters and ocean-going vessels passed right in front of our house. So we were always building rafts and going out on the lake. We lived on the lake. We were either in it or on it. And but Terry decided one day that we should try and go out as far as we can on this raft that he built. And it was a good, sturdy raft. But, and in fact, I wrote a short story about this and entered it in a contest long years ago when I first joined Inscribe. I think it was the first story that I entered in a contest with Inscribe. And the woman who judged it came to me afterwards and she said, I really liked the story, but I didn't believe that it was possible. I didn't believe that it could be true. And I said, what do you mean? And she said, well, to take a raft that far onto Lake Huron, I didn't think it was possible. And I said, well, it happened. And she said, yeah, but if your readers don't believe it, it doesn't matter if it's true. If they don't believe that, it's not realistic to them. So I changed it. I made it into a boat instead of a raft.
Okay. Footnote, it was actually a raft and it's all true, but I didn't think you'd believe me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We,
So
we did,
go ahead.
sorry, we did get quite a ways out, not right into the channel where the freighters and ocean goers were, but pretty close. And the swells off those ships would be huge. So there were times where we'd be down in the trough of the swell and we couldn't see anything but water, above us. And when I think of it now, like it was a very stupid thing to do. I mean, we could have ended up drowned out there.
Yeah.
But we didn't stay out there all that long. We just kind of got to the edge. You can tell by the water, the color of the water, where the channel is, and we could see that line. And then that's where we decided, okay, we better go back. So we turned back.
So the problem of genres, that's the sort of catchy line that's in my head, and you kind of go back and forth between feeling appreciating the breadth of your genres and struggling with the breadth of what the genres you write in, right?
Yeah, well, it's a little bit. I remember when I first started writing years and years and years ago and started publishing, someone at a conference told me you have to pick one genre and become known for that genre and stick with it. And I tried to do that, but I just couldn't. I had things come into my mind that obviously were stories, other things that were devotionals, other things that were poems. And, I just could not just write one thing. So all through my career, I have done all kinds of different genres. I have children's books, I have devotionals, I have adult fiction, I have middle grade fiction, I have YA fiction, so it's really a mixture.
Mm-hmm.
And that's been a bit of a problem as far as the marketing goes. And I think that's why that person said pick one, because trying to market all of those different things is difficult because they all have different audiences, obviously.
Well, and last week, so we've been running something in the book hatchery called Summer School for Authors. And last week we had a guest come and talk about Substack. And do you remember what she said to you? She said,
Yeah,
I want to hear you say.
She said, you are the brand.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd never thought of that before because I was, I sort of said it's hard for me to figure out a brand because I have so many different things. And she just immediately said, oh, but you are the brand.
Yeah.
And that really suddenly made sense to me. And, and that will make marketing much more practical and a lot easier for me to do.
Yeah, because you're not sharing this piece of writing with that audience and that piece of writing with this audience. You're sharing yourself. Mm-hmm. And while it's true that we expect teenagers and young adults to be attracted to a certain kind of writing that you put out, I think you might find that there are a lot of other people who are happy to read it. And the way we present it to one group will be different than the way you present it to another group. Maybe not. I don't know. It's you're showing up. Like you've spoken to high schoolers. I love a story you tell about how you overcame some doubts and some skepticism of some teenage boys when you were doing a talk about poetry.
Yes, that was an interesting time. I was asked to come into a Christian school, and it was kind of a mixed group of kids. So I think the youngest were probably in grade 5 or 6, and then it went right up to grade 12. So it was a real cross section of the ages, and a lot of them were boys. And they had asked me to come in and talk about poetry. So I kind of had laid everything out of what I was going to do, and I had intended to end with a story about a Russian poet that I've had the privilege to meet and to hear her read. And she's had an incredible life story. She was imprisoned for her poetry because she was writing poetry about freedom and about, against what the government was doing in her country. And so they threw her in prison, and she wrote her poems in soap on the walls of her cell. And, the story is incredible. And, so I was planning to end with that story. But when I walked into the room, all these grade 9, 10, 11 boys, the bigger boys, were standing at the back of the room with their arms crossed over their chest like this, looking at me like, no old lady's going to talk to me about poetry, or going to make me interested in poetry. And so I decided to start with that story. And, I started by saying, you may think poetry is insignificant, but if it's insignificant, why would a regime, a country, put a woman in prison for her poetry because she wrote poetry? And then I told the story. And by the end of that story, they were all kind of leaning forward, like, so it was really neat. And I got those guys writing some really good poetry by the end of the time. It was really great.
Yeah. Oh, that's beautiful. I love it. The power of the written word and the spoken word, because that story combines both, right? The written word and the spoken word, and how your decision to start with a story instead of ending with it because you knew your audience. So I think it's exciting to me to think of what can happen now that you have this new perspective on what you're marketing. Well, and not even marketing. Like, what is marketing? I think marketing is hospitality. That's what I like to do, to think of with marketing. Hospitality. We're hosting this conversation here, and people are joining us, and say hi in the chat if you're still here. I think we got about 5 people online with us right now. So please join in and say hi. I put the link to the crowdfunder. I'm going to put that again, just in case you might want to check out Marcia's work and maybe even pre-order a copy of Flecks of Gold. Marketing as hospitality, and you practice hospitality a lot. So if you just imagine inviting people into your living room and sharing your life with them. And one of the draws that we did was earlier in the campaign was for a book plate by one of your mentors, Ted Harrison, who was an artist in the Yukon, and you took classes from him and exchanged something. We already told that story, so I won't dwell on it, but
I have a show and tell about Ted.
Yeah. Oh, you do right now?
Yeah. Do you want me to do it now, or I can do it later?
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, we've had a flood in our basement. We had some water in our basement, so we've had to tear up all the rugs and empty everything out of our basement because we have to completely redo it. And so I've been packing books, and I came across this book that I had totally forgotten that I had. And it is a book called Northern Reflections. And it's full of pieces written by an Anglican minister who was, let me see if I get this right, the Dean of the Yukon. And his wife published the book, and she asked Ted Harrison if he would allow her to use some of his paintings in the book. So it's got all of these lovely paintings by Ted all through the book. And it's just a delight. And as I said, I'd totally forgotten that I had it. I haven't read it yet, so I've just put it on my to be read pile on the top because I want to read it and go through it. But that was just a delight to find there's always a silver lining to things that happen. And this whole thing with our basement has been not at all fun. But to find this book was just a delight, to realize.
Yes, we've been talking so much about Ted in the last 3 months. Did you realize that today is exactly 3 months to the day from when we launched your party?
I saw that, yeah, because it was the 4th of May, my birthday, when we started.
Yes, that's why I said party, right? Because it's a crowdfunding campaign. We're raising money, but it's a party for Marcia's 75th birthday. We are celebrating her life and all of the genres that she writes, and we're pulling a bunch of it together in one book, a little capsule of Marcia's work. So, Marcia, you have more show and tell. What are we giving away tonight?
We're giving away a felting of, oh, and I should have had that here. Do you want me to run and get one? I didn't bring one.
Sure. Yes. Go get
Okay,
it. And I will
be
chat
quick.
about you while you're gone. Are your ears going to burn? So Marcia is going to get a sample of a felt that she made, a felted landscape. Marcia is, if you haven't been at one of our live recordings before, or you haven't seen a replay, Marcia is very visually creative as well as verbally creative. So this is just one of the many mediums that Marcia works in. Oh, this is a different one. What is this?
Yeah, this is just one that I did. The mountains in the background are kind of reminiscent of the mountains where I live. The mountains that kind of surround the town that I'm living in. And the canola fields are just blooming like crazy right now. Well, some of them are ready to be harvested now, but so the yellow is so vibrant. And so I just kind of put this little felting together, kind of to depict our area here.
Oh, that's beautiful. So we're drawing for, not for this felting, although I suppose if they wanted it, if the winner wanted that particular one, would you let them have it?
It's my favorite one right now.
Oh.
But
Okay.
I could possibly do another very similar one if they really like this.
Okay. So what we're drawing for is a custom felted landscape. Does it have to be a landscape?
No, not necessarily. I've been learning how to felt flowers, how to create flowers with felting. So I was thinking one of the ones I want to do is of a garden. So if you wanted to have a picture of something like that, I could attempt to do that too.
Is there anything
be warned, I'm very new at doing that. So.
Okay, is there anything you absolutely can't do right now, like pets or?
Yeah, probably couldn't do a pet.
Okay, or a person.
Landscapes are kind of the easiest thing for me to do.
Landscapes and foliage, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So you could give Marcia one of your favorite landscape or maybe still art pictures, and she could turn it into a felted creation. So whoever wins tonight will get that for free, and like as a prize. And I emphasize the for free because, can I tell this, Marcia? You and I were talking about your kind of your bucket list and some things that you and your husband want to do, and I'm like, sell some felts. Sell books, obviously, but also sell felts, because I bet you could sell some custom felts for Christmas. So if you don't win tonight, but you think you'd like a felted something from Marcia, then let us know and we'll connect you. So, or just reach out to Marcia. You can send her a direct message here in Substack or find her on her website. So let's go. Do you remember who our last winner was, Marcia?
I think our last one was my daughter, actually. Remember? It was my daughter and her mother-in-law.
I think we did another draw since then.
Did we do another one in between that?
Yeah.
I forget.
Okay, well, if we draw this person's name, that person's name, and you recognize it, then we'll draw again. So, okay. Shall we just go ahead and do the draw?
Sure.
Oh, how do I click to spin? There should be a way. Oh, here we go. Make it big. Click to spin. Drum roll, please.
Here we go.
Oh, it gives a cue. Okay. Oh, Pam H. I think she's one of our new.
Pam has already won. Pam was the winner of the book plate.
Really? Oh, okay.
Yep.
Well, just a minute though. I know there was somebody with an H. Let's see. Okay, then we will draw again.
Okay.
That's so funny. Okay. Laura C. Is that your daughter?
Laura C. No, my daughter's last name doesn't start with C. Laura
Okay.
C.
Well, Laura C. is our winner.
Okay. We'll have to go and look
Congratulations, Laura
who
C.
that is.
So find a picture that you love, and Marcia will recreate it as a felt. Wonderful. Marcia, is as we head into the home stretch with your book, and we'll need to do more of these lives and updates about our progress, because I just got the manuscript back from Sheila today, and now it'll be your turn. As soon as I tidy it up a little bit, it'll be your turn to polish and make your edits, and then I'll take it back again and I'll do a copy edit, and I'll standardize all of your punctuation and spelling and just tidy it up. And then after the copy edit, we go to layout. And we also need to finalize the back cover. We have the front cover, but we need to finalize the back cover. And layout is the interior design, and we've got all of these different genres of pieces, all short. And then we've got some pictures, and then after layout, we send it away, we get a proof copy. And the proof copy shows if there's any mistakes in it that we missed on the screen. We get a printed copy. And then we order all the copies that everybody pre-ordered. So we've still got about 4 weeks left of work to do, and going back and forth a bit, but we're in the home stretch. So if you want to pre-order a copy, you've still got time, and we can make sure you get a book. We're so excited about it, and we hope you are too. Marcia, how are you feeling as we come into the home stretch? Do you get butterflies?
Yes, yeah, I'm getting very excited about having the book in hand, and we'll have a book launch online, and then a book launch in person. With Ponderings, my last book, we had an in-person book launch in my home, and it was so much fun. I really enjoyed it, so I want to do that again too. So I'm excited about opening my home for it, to have people come and pick up the books they've ordered, and see my other books too, and just chat about writing. And I always love talking to people about writing and books and what they're reading right now, and all those kinds of things. So it's always a lot of fun.
So after with 13 books, do you have a similar feeling as you come into the home stretch of every book, or is it a little different with every book?
It's a little different with every book. With some of them, like with this book, I don't think we've mentioned this, but I was kind of reluctant to do this book at the very beginning, because I started
Ponderings too.
Yeah, and with Ponderings too.
Sorry, I interrupted you. So you were reluctant to do this book.
Yeah, with this one, because I sort of felt, well, all these stories and poems and everything, and devotionals and all of these pieces have been out there for quite a while, and they're in various different places, and some of them are in my other book, my devotional books for the moment. And I thought, won't people be kind of reluctant because, they've already read some of these, and, so I wasn't sure if it was really a good idea to do this. But Sheila's excitement about it was contagious. Yeah. And the more I talked with her, the more I started to get excited about doing this. So it gave me an opportunity to do some more writing, to write a few more pieces that haven't been seen before. So it's been really a delight to do it.
I just think you don't have the story of your husband's proposal in that book. That's in Ponderings, your memoir.
It's in Ponderings, yeah.
That is one of my favorite stories. Marcia and I had known each other for a while, and then we did a little road trip together, and that's when I really started to get to know you, and I thought you were so much fun, and that story really stuck with me, of your husband proposing. And I won't ask you to tell the story now, but the point is, I have asked you to tell that story over and over and over again because I think it's one of the best. And um, I think a new collection, even with old stories, but also with some new ones, is like spending a weekend with a good friend. Spending, going on a road trip with a good friend, and you hear some of the stories again, not because you haven't heard them before, but because you love them. And we have asked for these. Sheila and I have asked for these because we think people need to hear them. And and then there's some new ones thrown in there, and it's a whole new perspective on Marcia, our friend, who who inspires us, who entertains us, who educates us on the North, who informs us. You know, I think you're doing all four in this book, and probably a few other things as well. So I'm so excited to bring this book into the world, and I'm so glad you gave in to our insistence. Sheila's mostly. Sheila's very persuasive, and she's not wrong.
What kind of reminds me a little bit of our time. We were missionaries in Papua New Guinea for a while, which is an island off the coast of Australia. And one of their, well, when they say to say to someone, come and visit me, the expression is, you must come na story one time me. You must come and tell stories with me.
Oh.
Because their culture it's very much a Stone Age culture there still, and it's very oral. So they tell stories, and they tell stories over and over and over again, because there's nothing written down. And I remember being at a big gathering one time, and we were in groups together, and there were different storytellers in each group. And this fellow was telling this story, and we hadn't been in the country too long, so I couldn't catch everything he was saying. He was speaking in Melanesian Pidgin, but he was speaking quite fast. And so I couldn't catch everything he was saying. But it was obvious that people knew the story. They had heard the story over and over and over again. But they were laughing at, where they should have been laughing, and they were clapping at places. And, it was just as though they were hearing it all over again for the first time. And it was such a delight to be there and see the joy that, that stories can bring to people. And that really encouraged me. I was there as a writer. I was writing for Wycliffe Bible Translators when I was there. So it was just such an encouragement to me to know, the power of story.
Yes, the power of story. Okay, I'm going to leave it there for tonight. Thank you so much, Marcia, for being with me. Thank you to everyone who has been live with us, and we will put the replay up later, and we will send Laura C. her notice that she won, and see what she. Well, I wonder if we'll have to show people what felt results from this. So maybe it'll be another canola field, maybe it'll be something else. So thanks, Marcia, and we will talk to you soon.
Okay. Thank you, Colleen. Always enjoy it.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everybody.